All right, we're going to factor trinomials today, and we're just going to jump right in and get started. A trinomial is always written in ax squared plus bx plus c form. Towards the end of this lesson, we're going to set that equal to 0, and we're actually going to solve the equations. So right now, we're just going to learn how to factor a trinomial. So what you want to do is make sure that you have the trinomial will be x squared plus 6x plus 8. And we are looking at the 6 and we're looking at the 8 to try to set this up and factor it. So what we're going to do is make a little t-chart, and we're always going to be looking for the factors of the constant. So we're looking for factors of 8, and then we want the sum of those factors. And the sum of those factors has to equal 6. Okay, so the factors themselves, what we multiply together, has to equal 8, and then they have to add up to equal the 6. Both of these are positive, so we're going to say 8. We know it's going to be 1 times 8, and 1 times 8 equals 8, but 1 plus 8 equals 9. So that does not equal 6. The next one we can try is 2 times 4. 2 times 4 equals 8, and 2 plus 4 equals 6. So 2 and 4 are going to be the factors that I'm going to use. So you set that up. We have 2 x's here for x squared, so 1 goes in each of the 2 binomials. Then we are going to say 2 times 4, so that's going to be plus 2 and plus 4. Now to check it, you can use your FOIL method. So to check, we can do x times x, which would be x squared, x times 4, which is 4x, and 2 times x, which is 2x. Then the last term, 2 times 4, which is 8. These two get added, they're like terms, x squared plus 6x plus 8. And that's exactly what we started with. We're just going to keep going through because we're going to move these from positives to negatives. Okay, so next example. We have x squared minus 10x plus 16. Now again, we're looking at the negative 10 and the 16. So I'm just going to abbreviate factors of 16. And then the sum of the factors. And the sum has to add up to negative 10. So this one is always, the middle term is going to be the one that we are going to get the sum of the factors. And the one that the constant is the multiplying the 2 factors to get that number. So 16, we know we have 1 times 16. 1 times 16 would be 1 plus 16, which is equal to 17. Not going to happen. And we know one of these has to be negative because we need to make, well, actually both of these have to be negative because a negative times a negative is a positive 16, and you add 2 negatives and you would get a negative 10. What about negative 2? And those should be negative 2 times negative 8. And negative 2 plus negative 8 is going to give me negative 10. Now 16, we could do negative 4 times negative 4. And negative 4 plus negative 4 is equal to negative 8. So our 2 factors have to be negative 2 and negative 8. So again, we set up our 2 factoring with our x's because we have x squared. This one has to be negative 2. That one has to be negative 8. All right. What if we have x squared plus x minus 12? Now here we have a negative 12, but we have a positive 1. So because this is a negative and this means the factors, one has to be negative and one has to be positive. So I'm even going to abbreviate more now. I'm going to do factors and sum. Remember that the sum has to be a positive 1 this time. So factors of 12, we could have a negative 1 times a positive 12. And negative 1 plus 12 is going to equal positive 11. So that one's not going to work. And I'm sure you're all thinking about negative 3 times a positive 4. Negative 3 plus 4 is equal to a positive 1. So that would be the combination that I would be looking for to make a negative 12 when we multiply, but to make a positive 1 when we add. So again, we have x and x. This one would be minus 3, and this one would be plus 4. All right, what if we have both negatives in there? So we have x squared minus 7x minus 19. Minus 18. Okay, so we want factors, and we want our sum, and our sum has to be a negative 7. So we want to multiply to a negative 18, and we want to add to a negative 7. So we know since we're multiplying to a negative 18, we need to make sure one of those factors is negative. So of course we can start with 1 times negative 18. And 1 times negative 18 is going to give you negative 17. So that's not it. So the two numbers that I have in my mind is 9 and 2. 9 times 2 is 18. So if I did negative 2 times 9, then that would be negative 2 plus 9, and that's equal to a positive 7. We need this to be a negative 7. So if we take that and do positive 2 times a negative 9, then we have 2 plus a negative 9, and that's going to equal a negative 7. So our factors are going to be 2 and negative 9. So x plus 2, x minus 9. Okay? So those are the 4 types whether you have both positives, 1 negative, 1 positive, 1 negative, 1 positive, but this time it would be the factors, or both negatives. Okay, that is how you would do those. Now there's one other thing that we're going to take this to the next level, and that is solving an equation for it. So if we have x squared plus 5x equals 6. Okay, in order to solve these, you're going to want to make sure that you factor them first. In order to factor this, we have to move that 6 over. So it's in ax squared plus bx plus c form. So I'm just going to subtract 6 from both sides, and I'm going to get x squared plus 5x minus 6 equals 0. All right, I'm going to do my factors and my sum. Okay, now my sum has to be 5, and my factors have to come to a negative 6 when I multiply. So if I do, one has to be negative, right, in order for that to happen. So negative 2 times positive 3, and negative 2 plus 3, that's going to equal 1. So that's not going to work. If I flip those and say a positive 2 times a negative 3, then that would be 2 plus negative 3, which is a negative 1. That's not going to work either. So the only other factors we have is 1 times 6, and since we need one of them to be negative, but we need that middle term of 5 to be positive, then that's going to be a negative 1. So negative 1 plus a positive 6 is equal to 5. So we have x minus 1 times x plus 6 equals 0. Now we're solving for this equation, okay? So we're solving the equation by factoring. Okay, we're going to solving the equation by factoring. So we move the 6 over, so it's in the proper form of ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. We factored by finding the factors and the sum of the b term and the c term. Now we're going to break it down. X minus 1 equals 0 and x plus 6 equals 0. So I broke those two down and set them equal to 0. I'm going to add 1, so x is equal to 1. I'm going to subtract 6, x is equal to negative 6. Okay, now it's very important that you substitute these back in to make sure that they actually make the equation true. So I'll do the 1 first. So x squared plus 5x minus 6 equals 0. 1 squared plus 5 times 1 minus 6 equals 0. 1 plus 5 minus 6 equals 0. 1 plus 5 is 6. 6 minus 6 is equal to 0. So that one does work. X squared plus 5x minus 6 equals 0. Negative 6 squared plus 5 times negative 6 minus 6 equals 0. 36 minus 30 minus 6 equals 0. 36 minus 6 is 6 minus 6. 0 equals 0. So therefore, the solution set is going to be 1, negative 6. Both of those numbers satisfies that equation.